All right, guys, we're going to jump into spoilers now. So if you haven't seen the film, get on out of here. If you don't want anything spoiled, and for those on YouTube, head on back to the non-spoiler review because we get into more of our general opinions here. Now we're getting into certain little nitpicky areas. So where do we want to start? I think maybe even just going back to that first opening scene with RV or whatever that car is in the
RC.
gutter. With the leaves, the texturing, the look of the water, it just looked absolutely incredible. And I really enjoyed that overall sequence.
How many years ago did it say it was?
9.
It did, yeah. So that puts this like directly after the last one, doesn't it?
Yes.
Essentially, because
It would
if Andy's
have
just
to.
going off to college
Yeah.
and he was like 9 years
Yeah.
old then, so yeah.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense.
So it's set in 2010.
Yeah, I really loved that initial scene, where Andy's playing with the toys and kind of flying
Spinning
him
him
around.
around.
I thought that was a really beautifully constructed scene.
Yes.
In and of itself.
And I like the transitions of him getting older, focusing on a toy. It was really artistically done.
From an aesthetic point of view, really well done. Execution, I thought it looked gorgeous. I mean,
Yes.
we keep saying that there's a couple of scenes in this movie that I was just like, okay, that's really good craftsmanship. Just in terms of a good way to kind of bring us along the journey. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that all makes sense. You're completely right. I was a little bored by it though, just because the last two opened with really cool action scenes.
Oh,
Like
the
really
action-
epic, like fantasy action
the
scenes.
action
Yeah.
scene for 2 and 3 are insane.
Yeah.
Like Buzz on the platforms in the video game
Yeah,
and 2 and the
love
giant
that one.
Oh man, number 3 is probably the best. Let's be honest. Like that is insane for an opening sequence. But no, I like the earnestness of that scene. It was cool. Kind of a little bit of a recap for those also who are unfamiliar with the franchise.
I did think that, while I was really happy by it, there was the slight voice at the back of my head being like, they're going to try and pull heartstrings in this film. And I didn't want that to be what really drove this film. I didn't want it to be about nostalgia. I mean, that's, I think, something that the second and third have done really well, which is that they certainly at times hit you with that nostalgia pretty hard. But I think it was really measured about when they went ahead with that. For this film, I think that they did a good job of not overplaying that hand, but
Yeah.
it was something that I was a little bit worried about right off the bat.
Yeah, I don't think they did much looking back at all. Like the whole point of the thing was kind of looking forward, which was I think they really stuck to their guns on that.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
So I guess the main sort of thrust of this narrative is that Woody was the leader. He was the head honcho in the Andy days.
Favorite toy.
And now he has been relegated to the sidelines, and he still cares so much about Bonnie. That's his MO basically, is making sure that that's running smooth. And whether he's there as a toy or they're just facilitating it through like Forky being there, his MO, what's top of mind for him is really making sure Bonnie's cool. That's the mean potatoes here of
I
that
liked that
initial bit.
exploration. Like, I think it's cool because the first 3 films have consistently said that the main purpose of a toy is to be played with. Like, that's the real driver. And I like how they were kind of exploring this, kind of almost this psychology of Woody, who has gone beyond just being played with. It's no longer just about that. It's about the well-being of the child and kind of how he takes on this manic kind of
Bloodshot
determination,
eyes.
like to just like Bonnie must be happy no matter what, and I kind of liked that, especially with them. I loved it when he first said that, first day of kindergarten, you need to have a toy there. It makes it all that better. When he says that, you think, okay, the purpose of the toy being there is that they feel safe because they have something familiar there. I loved it that it eventually took on like a more literal meaning where he was actually changing things and doing like physically, going around and moving things in order to make her day better. I thought that was really cool. It wasn't about being played with. It was about, facilitating some kind of happy experience for them.
And he was getting very controlling. And I feel like you were watching that movie kind of like, yeah, this guy's ready for retirement, I think.
Yeah. Just you got to let it go, man. But yeah, I really like that. And I really loved the introduction of the Forky character. I think it's such a novel thing to.
Forky was an absolute standout in this
Yeah,
movie.
100%.
I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was a really, really cool.
Oh,
Decision.
he was hilarious. It was spot on. I was really, I was walking into this film ready to hate Forky, and I totally didn't. But there is one problem that arises with it, and generally what I was talking about in the non-spoiler part is like sort of the sentience aspect of this, and the what these creatures are, what are these things designed to do?
I kind of agree with Ben, whereby if you look too much into that, you're going to pull a thread that you don't want to pull.
They addressed it more than enough for me at the end of the film.
Yeah,
when we
right
get,
on the nose.
we get the knife partner to him, and she's like, "Why am I alive?" And he's like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "That's brilliant," because
Yeah.
that's the meaning of our lives too. We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I just thought that there was something with the Bo Peep character. I think I'm skipping pretty far along here. But
all over the place, George.
the Bo Peep character and these toys, like ultimately, what is a toy? I mean, it's got to be a kid's going to play with the toy, and it's entertainment. And then these washed up toys start to live these other lives, and they're these anthropomorphic creatures walking around. And I'm starting to sit there like, man, like you're thinking about this too much. This is,
I think you are thinking about this too much.
freaking me out.
Yeah.
And there was just something like all these toys like getting thrown away just start to gather and gather and gather, and you know, you can't like to some degree you can't delve into that level, but there was something there that wasn't quite sitting quite right with me.
Does Sid's room not bother you that much?
In what way?
In Toy Story 1, the way he's like ripping apart all these little creatures and putting them back together
That's
in
an
weird
interesting
ways.
thread.
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
I thought so was this. All of these
No, it
toys
definitely is on
who had this
paper.
very strong purpose in life, but they were finding something to do without that.
Yeah.
Unlike the kind of bitter, you know, lots of Huggins bears kind of characters who can't let go. They're moving on.
And it's almost an answer to the question of like what like the lost toy. Like, what do you do if you don't have a kid to play with you? Like, what do you lose your purpose? Do you know? I thought that was an interesting way to go, and I think they explored it just enough that it added, but didn't. You weren't. It wasn't pulling the thread too much.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost like undoes the beauty of the first three. It's like we're exploring that extra layer that actually kind of, for me at least, maybe not for you guys, but for me at least, it almost undid some fundamental areas and makes you question things that you didn't necessarily even sort of occur to you.
What kind of fundamental areas?
Just like, okay, Forky, for example, like
Yeah.
him being able to come alive. Like, what is a toy? What is the nature of these things? Like, when does, you know what I mean? Like, it's bringing, it's opening this gateway for me. And this is just the way I work. Like, and maybe for better or worse,
I think it's worse. Is probably the answer.
it just doesn't feel watertight, and it doesn't feel as brilliant as.
But as we said, like none of this. Again, when you pull the strings on any of these films, none of these are really watertight.
But
like
I feel
don't
like
quite make
I feel like
sense.
there's every film out there, you'll be able to pull something out that doesn't work. And sometimes a lot of people go, we were talking about this recently. This is just the story. How did that happen? How was that person able to do that? This is just the story. This is an extraordinary story, and we're witnessing it in front of our eyes. You know, that can be a way it goes, but yeah.
I don't give up.
I'm just giving up with this
Off
movie.
into
I've
mumbles.
given up with this movie already.
That's fair. That's fair. Just to rewind a little bit, I like what this movie undoes from previous movies, and this is more about the narrative of these characters. I like how they take where Woody ended in the last one, and they're like, no, that's not really where he wanted to be, or that this isn't where he's going to stay. That like the last one was very, you know, he had his whole life with Andy, and that was amazing. And it's like, oh, now he's got Bonnie, and he's going to do it again. And this one's like, no, that didn't work out this time, and he has to find something new and something completely different. I really like that as like I said, an epilogue.
Well, I mean, if we look at number 3, sort of that the main theme there is sort of about a death, or it's about revision or turning over a newer leaf. It's sort of it's sort of starting over, and this one's like more about what if things don't work out? What if life kind of continues on and
I think this one's very much also about like self-sustainability. Like it's about not only just relying, because I mean, really, the toy's happiness is dependent upon their masters effectively in the first three films, and this one does bring the interesting element of saying, can you create your own happiness? Which is, again, I think it's a cool way to go. And I think that they at a conceptual level, I'm glad that they explored that in this film. I have absolutely no problems with that. My issue kind of comes with it. They almost didn't push it far enough. And I feel like
I agree with that.
Once they hit that conceptual level, everything after that, every choice that was made just felt a little bit safer and safer. Like they didn't want to go too far with it. And I think this movie, a lot of the charm of this movie is not kind of through the deep substance of it, but more around the kind of the humor of it. That I think is something that really carried this film. Speaking of which, can we just at least quickly address what might be my favorite? Well, it is my favorite scene of the entire film, but has a top ranking in the entire franchise. Is the
Plush Rush,
the attacking the granny
That's
scene,
brilliant.
which is honestly as funny a scene as I have seen in the franchise. I think really fantastic, and a lot of different kind of humor aspects to that. I thought that they played that so brilliantly. There's a little almost fourth wall breaking type stuff. There's I love that they took their time with that joke as well.
It was pitch perfect. They ran it just the exact amount they should.
Yeah.
And then I feel like the beauty of the scene as well was right at the end where she places the keys in the bowl right in front
Oh
of
yeah,
her.
yeah.
And that was just like a perfect little bullet point to
Perfect
finish it off.
callback
Yeah.
to it. Yeah.
Spot on.
So I think that is a perfect indication of how the humor kind of plays out for this film. Loved all of Forky's little jokes. I really enjoyed Key and Peele, their kind of banter, and loved Keanu Reeves. I almost feel like I'm jumping on a bandwagon by saying it, because at this point, you open up Facebook and it's just like, how great is Keanu Reeves? I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
But fuck me dead. I gotta agree.
One thing that irritated me, which probably shouldn't, because you shouldn't be such a sad old fuck, but it irritated me, was that both Woody and Buzz Lightyear got new voices. And we've never seen these. We've never heard these. We've never seen these. We've never heard these before.
You're saying when you say voices, do you mean like
so Buzz is pressing his
voice
buttons,
stuff, yeah.
and he's got multiple new lines, and same with Woody. Well, how did you guys feel about that? Because that shouldn't have shat me as much as it did, but it really shat me.
Definitely stood out to me.
It was just felt like it like, put it this way: if we make a parallel to something you guys been worried about with the MCU, as like the X-Men, just shoved in there. It felt like kind of blatantly shoved in there with no disregard. I don't know. It just for me, it was just like, go with it. Don't think about it. It's not watertight with everything that's been established before.
I get where you're coming from, and I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but if I was coming at this movie in a really hard way, trying to pick at things in it, I would absolutely do that.
Maybe I am.
Yeah, well, I'm just not saying it.
So I think one thing that I will say that I agree with in that terms is that it makes them feel less like toys. Like a toy would have like 3 settings and then that's it. It does
like a firmware
make it
update.
Yeah, it makes them feel a little bit more like oddly more sentient, like not like they always felt like toys that had sentience. This just makes them feel like sentient beings. And that for me was a little bit weird. It kind of like lost that toy aspect from that point of view. One of the things that, while we're speaking about Buzz did bother me though, is that I felt like Buzz took a step back.
Big time.
Not just in like terms of screen time, but also just in terms of the character development. Like he felt like an idiot in this.
I remember feeling that in the third one because it was all Spanish Buzz.
Yeah, but there's a reason behind it.
Was that the case? Was there more to his character in that I'm forgetting? Because I feel like in both of these he kind of took a back
you
seat.
could be correct.
So-
I think you're right. I remember feeling that a little bit as well.
From my memory, and there's 2 aspects to this. There are parts of that film when, like, particularly at the beginning, before that happens to Buzz, that he feels very much at, like,
A key team member.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's there. He's on par with Woody. You know, there's that partnership. There's
Yep.
that real kind of connection. And then when he goes into Spanish Buzz, there is a very specific reason as to why that is, and that's I found that really funny. And I really like the way that they did that because they showed you know, integrated Buzz, you know, on the top of his game at the beginning, and then there's a direct contrast to him being Spanish Buzz. In this one, he kind of comes in almost from the like, "How you doing, buddy?" and then like really doesn't have anything to do.
Woody's
in
like
this
explaining
movie-
him shit, and it's like, what the fuck?
In this movie, I think he might still be Spanish Buzz, but he's just learned English.
Yeah, like I mean, it kind of sounds like that, and that for me made it really weird, and that also for me, I think, muted the ending. The ending where they're really trying to pull heartstrings, where he's saying goodbye to his group of toys and he's going off with Bo, that should have been twice as hard hitting, and it really should have been centering around the
Those two,
friendship
yeah.
between Woody and Buzz. That's what you should feel as though you're
I totally
losing.
agree with you.
And the problem with that is their friendship is not highlighted at all in this film. They are relying entirely on nostalgia, which again, that for me is kind of the biggest failing of this film, I think, is that I like that they did a film that was really about Woody, but I really feel as though they should
You're
have.
missing Buzz.
There's I
Missing
don't know
that
whether
presence.
I don't know how they could have integrated that, but the emotional payoff that they tried to achieve at the end, I don't think worked because they didn't address that relationship.
I definitely felt that when all the other toys came in. They were
Yeah.
just like dancing around and having, like, okay, that's not what this
That
situation
that
is.
that was really weak. That final bit, it was so average. You know, it wasn't anything terrible, but for where the emotional resonance of number 3, and yes, maybe you can say, oh, they're pulling on the heartstrings, they're going for the easy shot. No, that's when we got to be feeling that shit. That's when I want to be like, I want to be welling up. I want to be like, holy fuck, like they're parting ways. You know, they're never going to see each other ever again. These toys we've fallen in love with over decades, 24 years. And that's what we
like
get.
The third
And-
one was an ensemble movie, so that makes sense to pull the heartstrings there because there's
But
reference to that.
in this one, like
There isn't.
I needed more from that
Yeah.
scene, and that was a major disappointment.
Again, I don't think it was necessarily the scene. I think it's everything that preceded the scene.
It's
like, I
the
think-
whole movie, yeah. But that scene, like, I should have felt something a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a scene to a different movie in my eyes. I mean that feels like
In what way?
in the way that the emotional payoff for that scene around his interactions with the other characters should have been based on this movie being an ensemble movie or something like there is some kind of setup or there's an addressing of the relationship that's not present that makes that last scene just feel a little bit flat because that last scene is entirely depending on you feeling the nostalgia of the last 3 films, which is, I mean, it's fine for someone that has been on that journey from day one, but it's not going to be as impactful as if they had just addressed it in that movie because you have to think about the movie in its kind of own little bubble.
I feel very differently about it for some reason. I really like how low key it is. Because Woody felt kind of detached from everyone else in this movie, it really sold to me that it was the right choice for him to leave.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't that relationship with Buzz in this one, and that's because he's moved on to a new phase of his life or something. I don't know if that's what they were
Yeah.
going for, but maybe they just, Tim Allen's such an outspoken fucking right wing guy now. Maybe they just phased Buzz out of it for that reason. But this movie was so much about him and Bo Peep, who's a character who's been so ignored since Toy Story 1, that I don't know, that kind of felt natural to me.
Yeah, from that perspective, that's a good point.
Like I would say that by moving the story away from the characters we know so well, they were not pushing the nostalgia too hard. They were.
But Buzz
telling
felt
kind of a different
relegated.
story. Yeah, totally, yes, completely agree.
And from a Toy Story 4, not a Woody film, I want, Woody, a Star Wars anthology tale.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
I want more. I felt Buzz. It was detrimental to the story to
And
not have him in as.
I
as
totally
much.
don't disagree with you, I'm just saying that if you want that last scene to hit
Mm.
in terms of I think, in my opinion, there should have been more of an emotional pull on that last scene between the goodbye of Woody and Buzz. That's what you would have had to have done. Like there would have had to have been some kind of exploration of their relationship in the movie.
I don't mind a smaller scene. I don't mind a smaller scope movie. I just want an earnestness, and I wanted to feel something, and that's all it was
That's
lacking.
all we want, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
Grumpy were you going into this film? Like
I didn't realize how much emotional stock you put into this
Yeah.
franchise. I'm worried about you
I'm
now.
so glad.
Did this film
I'm
ever-
so glad I'm invoking this.
yeah. Did this film ever actually stand a chance?
Never.
Yeah.
No, I definitely went in. I was going in expecting something really great.
I think
man.
that was your issue because we both went in.
I wasn't
being
grumpy
very
at all.
nervous.
I wasn't grumpy at all, and I wasn't expecting maybe even something as good as what the reviews are saying. But I just felt like this was not a great Toy Story film. I thought it was an okay to good Toy Story film, and that for me is disappointing because I can't tell you how much. I think I saw Toy Story 3 times in the cinema. I can't tell you how much I love that film, how much I love this franchise. And I would have loved to have really just been like, fuck yeah, they did it again, motherfucker. And I didn't get that feeling.
They set the bar too high.
Yeah.
That last
Isn't
one.
that a lesson for us all? Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Don't achieve anything.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I think,
and you'll never get disappointed.
Not quite.
Exactly,
It's if you do happen to achieve something absolutely spectacular, like having
Disappear from
three-
the face
yeah,
of the
yeah,
earth.
just be like,
Pivot.
mic drop. I'm out and walk away slowly.
Do a trilogy.
Yeah,
And
just
leave.
like seriously, you've gotten away. Like this is the typical, the murderer going back to the murder scene, like that. I mean, just no, you did it. You got away.
Yeah,
Just-
if I'm with a group of people and I say something, everyone laughs. I leave and I
Yeah,
do not come back.
That's Seinfeld right there.
yeah.
I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah.
Leaving on a high.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys?
I really thought this movie did not pull its punches at all with the jump scares. There were so many jump scares in this movie, like an unnecessary amount. I feel, and I don't like they weren't like terrifying or anything,
Yeah.
but they just felt like
Horror.
they
Yeah,
went for it.
Not
yeah.
quite
Yeah,
as
definitely
terrifying
horror.
as Symbol Monkey, I
No,
think.
that thing is the scariest thing ever in animation.
But yeah, they definitely went for a little bit. I've always kind of appreciated Toy Story for not pulling its punches around that. Like, I mean, when the Sid's bedroom,
The spider
Yes.
baby.
yeah, that's like, I mean, that was terrifying,
Yeah.
especially if you're like
Unsettling.
5 years old at the time. Like, no, thank you.
What did you guys think of one of the main sort of bad guys? I guess in this, the
Gabby.
Gabby, yeah. I thought there were some interesting ingredients there that were cooking away, but the broth that formed at the end was not the greatest bouquet.
She didn't do much for me, but I do like that they went a route that was more redemptive than they have with previous
Yeah.
characters.
I like the idea of her stealing the voice box. Like there was like within also the ventriloquist dolls, there was something kind of really fucked up and sadistic and evil about it. But I wanted maybe they could have gone a little bit further. But it's a kids' film at the end of the day, so
But that didn't stop them in the third one.
Well, the first one.
Or first one. So I think, yeah, like I said, I felt like this movie kind of pulled its punches a little bit in certain areas.
okay. So you think they could have maybe amped it up a bit more? Which bit are you talking about in number 3? The monkey.
Well, the monkey, them going down the trash chute, like,
Yeah, gets pretty dark.
It gets, fairly
yeah.
dark. This one, I think, in certain areas they maintain that pedigree. In others, it felt like they could have really amped it up. And I mean, that's probably a perfect summation of this film. Like, it's a perfectly fine film. It looks gorgeous. It's really funny. It doesn't quite hit the levels of the other films, which kind of makes it overall seem a little bit muted. I mean, it's not. I think I will probably not look at this as 4 Toy Story films. I will look at this as that trilogy, and then as you mentioned in a non-spoiler, this nice little epilogue.
I think I'm bringing too much to this movie, but that muted aspect to it, it feels. This movie just feels kind of melancholy all over.
Yeah.
I think I've already forgotten the movie. I'm just making up one. But I don't know. I kind of like that. It's like the moderation that comes with old age. That's I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's definitely a thing.
Mm.
Mm.
So, Just one final thing quickly is Randy Newman was back for this one. What did you guys think of? Did any of those songs pop out? I would have liked to have maybe.
Is there more than one?
Yeah, it seemed like there wasn't that much there. And for better or worse, it didn't feel like it was lost. But
he had a few songs in the original. He only had a couple after that. Like he hasn't been a huge contributor since then.
But he's the music by Randy Newman.
Yeah. No, the score was completely recycled.
Yeah.
Like
this film didn't really feel like, again, it was playing it relatively safe. You know, it was using old themes or just straight up using old music. Which again, you know, if you're trying to get away with murder for a fourth time type thing, you know, you're not going to take too many risks, which I think is a bit unfortunate, but not overly surprising.
So, folks, we all done with Toy Story 4? For me, just as a little final thing, 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10. It's definitely, I think you've summarized it perfectly, Benny. It's the epilogue. It's the little side thing that if you love the first 3 and you want a little bit more, go check this out. Maybe not everyone's going to love it. It's not at the same quality as the other ones, but it looks great. It's got that Pixar, level of quality to it, and overall pretty solid.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're looking for a laugh, I think this movie kind of delivers in spades, so I can't fault it on that. I feel like we for the last couple weeks at least, because we've just seen Aladdin, and I think there's another movie in the last month or two that had this same kind of MO, but we're getting a lot of recycled films or sequels and things
that's everything.
Yeah,
Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and these are things that a lot of people.
Like, holy fuck, every film.
Yeah,
John
every
Wick
film.
3.
But it feels lately, like very particularly, like there are movies that are really pivotal in our childhood.
This is the time we're coming into. People who are hitting the right age have the same nostalgia as us. Get ready for the next decade, because it is going to be exploiting our youth nonstop.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I find that, to be honest, very exhausting, and I find it really difficult to review movies like that, because it is so difficult to separate. What we want these franchises to be, whether we want them to just exist in our past solely, or whether we want to see it expanded but in a different way. Like, I think it's just this variable minefield out there, and
I think Marvel's kind of been responsible for that, because now, you're not watching one film. You're watching a film that's tied to potentially 18 other films, and there's this thread and that thread. And
I think it's more to do with people just running out of ideas.
I think there's a lot of layers to it, and there's a lot of ingredients, but there's definitely something there within. You're not just watching Toy Story 4 on its own. You're watching Toy Story 4 with 3 other films that have previously come before, and a lot of baggage.
Yep. So, I mean,
that's what happens when you get old, folks. You become a washed up old fuck.
This is the last episode of the podcast.
Fuck you! Fuck everyone!
This has gotten real nihilist real quick.
Also, you last week, Benny, you cracked last week or the other day at Men in Black.
It broke me. That's why I'm so.
I feel like this one has put a. It's not. I'm not broken, but there's a hairline fracture that's pretty bad.
Appreciate the amount of vitriol that you've put out on a podcast around a kids film.
It's a kids movie, you idiot.
Yeah.
Go get over it, man.
Why is it
Don't you have
serious,
something
man?
to live for?
Yeah. There's definitely some 6-year-old that's going to go onto their YouTube account to go check out the new.
Get ready for the comment section. Who's the guy in the middle? What a fucking loser! Get alive. I'll do my best, folks. I'll do my best. Not promising anything. All right. Well, we'll be back for the weekly show on Tuesday, guys, and I think that's this week's movie. So enjoy it when it comes out on Thursday.
What a way to finish up. All right, George, we'll be seeing you.
We'll see you. We'll be seeing you, Connor.
Bye.
And we'll be seeing you, Ben.
Bye, everyone.